Great. I call to order the Lynchburg Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. The first order of business is going to be presented here by Rachel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I'm sure you're all familiar with by now, the first meeting of every calendar year, we ask you to go ahead and elect your officers. And so the officers include the secretary, which historically has been the city planner. His responsibilities are to ensure attendance is taken, do the minutes, the agendas, and all the files for you. If you are happy with that, I would recommend go ahead and electing the city planner as your secretary again. We also have the duties of the chairperson, which are to preside at all the meetings, appoint committees, rule on procedural questions, report official communications referencing positive and negative opinions, and to certify official documents involving the authority of the commission. We also have the vice chairperson, whose duties are to assume the full powers of the chair in absence of the chair, and also carry out other duties as assigned. So if you want to go ahead and vote on who you would like to be your secretary, I would recommend Tom Martin, very qualified.
I'll nominate Tom Martin to be secretary.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on that. All in favor of Tom being the new secretary, the remaining secretary, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Tom will be the secretary again.
Great. Next up would be the election of the chairperson. Is there any discussion on that?
Tom, you willing to continue to serve as chair?
Sure, yeah, I'm willing to continue on.
I think
Nominate Tom.
that Tom's willing. I think it's been going very well.
Yeah.
We appreciate the way he's been running things. I would propose, Nancy's proposed, I would second that Tom continues as chair.
Okay, great. I'll do that, but we'll vote first. So for me to be chair again, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, no opposition, so that one is filled, and then,
Lastly, your vice chairperson. Would anyone like to nominate someone on that?
Kenzie, are you willing to continue?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Kenzie has filled in admirably on the days Tom's been absent, and again, I would nominate Kenzie to continue. All right.
great, okay, so let's go ahead and vote on that. All in favor of Kenzie continuing on, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, great, so our slate is complete, and thank you for that, Rachel.
And thank you both for serving in those roles.
Thank
It
you all.
falls into the category that no good deed goes unpunished.
That's right. I really enjoy working with you also.
For the dictatorship.
That's right. All right, our next order of business is the following new business. We're going to hear the petition of Megan Shields to rezone approximately 402 thousandths of an acre located at 3629 Ford Avenue from R4 High Density Residential District to B1C Limited Business District with conditions to allow the use of the property as a massage therapy business. So Rachel, I assume you'll present that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Planning Commission. As the chair stated, this property is approximately 4,200 acres located at 3629 Ford Avenue and is currently zoned R4 High Density Residential. The current zoning was established in 1978. The city's comprehensive plan and future land use map recommend a medium-density residential use for the property. Medium-density residential uses are characterized by small lot, single-family detached housing, as well as duplexes, townhomes, et cetera, up to 12 units per acre. Any infill development should be at a compatible density and housing type and scale. In addition to residential uses, these areas may also include public and institutional uses compatible in scale with the single-family residential homes. Neighborhood commercial land uses are recommended for the area to the south of the property, across Oak Ridge Boulevard, These areas are intended to consist primarily of office, retail, personal service, and restaurant uses that are scaled and designed to be compatible with single-family homes in the immediate neighborhood. Patrons can walk, bike, take a short drive to reach them, that sort of thing. The area is also recognized by the comprehensive plan as one of our revitalization areas. These areas are designated in some of the areas older, typically commercial, but some residential districts. They've experienced decreased vitality following patterns of change common to older areas. In these neighborhoods, we want to give consideration to sensitive redevelopment, reusing and recycling existing buildings for a stable mix of residential and non-residential uses, and also seek to find the appropriate mix and location of those various uses. If the rezoning is approved, the existing structure would be used as a massage therapy business, operating from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. No changes are proposed to the exterior of the property, with the exception of a handicap ramp along Oak Ridge Boulevard. The petitioner has submitted a voluntary proffer stating that essentially the existing building will remain and the property shall be developed in compliance with this submitted plan. So in summary, the proposed rezoning would allow the conversion of an existing structure into a massage therapy business. The submitted proffer ensures that the building will continue to blend with the surrounding fabric and look of the neighborhood. Given the institutional, commercial, and multifamily uses in the immediate area, the proposed use should have little to no negative impact on the surrounding area. The city's technical review committee reviewed this petition on November 16th, 2021. Comments were minor in nature. The planning division recommends approval of the petition with the submitted proffer.
Thank you. And who is here to speak on behalf of this petition? Great, if you would, please come forward and you can sign your name there at the podium and state your name and then tell us a little bit more about what you're planning.
Sure. My name is Megan Shields. I'm going to do that before I forget. And Rachel did present the full summary of the business. We are small, family-owned. It's mom and dad back there. We currently have 5 total therapists, including Terry. So operation hours, everyone works in shifts. The 7 is like the very earliest we would possibly take appointments. 8 is very last end. We don't anticipate to have major high traffic in the area. We love that the home is just very cottagey in nature. It fits the surrounding area, and we like that about it. I don't really have any other comments other than any questions that you may have.
Great, thanks. We'll call anybody else who wants to speak for it. If you'll have something you want to add to that, that'd be great. And then after that, we'll call for any kind of objections. But if you please come forward, state your name. I know you all will be working together, so you might want to just hang out here close by.
Good morning, good afternoon. What time is it? My goodness. My name is Terry Sowers, and this is my daughter, Megan. My lovely daughter, Megan, and my husband, Harry, over here. We are family-owned, and the name of our business is True Healing Massage. Coincidentally, my name starts with a T, Harry's name starts with an H, and Megan's name starts with an M, so it actually comes out to be True Healing Massage. I think that's amazing. But anyway, we are more of a wellness-based, therapeutic type medical massage business. I think it's very important in this day and age to separate that out. We cater to veterans first and foremost. I am a veteran myself, and I partner with Hands for Heroes, who provide free massages to any veteran who asks. Also, we cater to seniors, which I believe the senior population is a beautiful population. As you can see, I married a senior. And I just think it's very important for people to to get touch and to get therapeutic touch. There's a lot of people that are in pain constantly. I'm one of them. So I am studying to do a pain management certification, among other things. I do a lot of different things, namely the Dolphin Neurostim. If you haven't heard of that, you should look it up. It's awesome. But we are a wellness-based center. So we are looking for people to come in that have problems, normal, everyday problems. So I would love to offer each and every one of you to come and visit.
Sometimes we need the stress release, I'm sure. Well, thank you. Is there anybody else to speak in favor? Okay, is there any opposition to this proposal? All right, we do have a couple online comments, so you'll have a chance to rebut them, so let's go ahead and hear those.
So I'll start with the email that I was sent. It says, "My name is Deborah A. Martin. I'm opposed to the rezoning of 3629 Fort Avenue from R4 medium density residential to B1 limited business to allow a massage therapy business to operate in this single family dwelling. My mother's house is 2 blocks west of this property and in the 3800 block of Fort Avenue, which is R2 low medium density single family. It is a section of Fort Avenue with lovely homes on the avenue and off of the streets. It would be a shame to have the character of the neighborhood change with business occupancies encroaching, as has happened in other parts of the city. Please do not change the zoning to allow additional business in this neighborhood. Sincerely, Deborah A. Martin."
Can I just get a second to hear?
Sure,
I don't have a hearing problem.
Oh,
Could you slow down a little bit when you read it again?
Yeah.
Well, just read them.
there you go.
Oh.
And then the second one?
Yeah.
And maybe get a little closer to the mic.
The second was a voicemail.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Enter your. You have one new voice message. New messages. Message 1.
Betty Pierce, 3610 Fort Avenue, 434-382-7380. Calling in regard to the rezoning of 3629 Fort Avenue. I'm calling to oppose it. We do not need nor do we want this in our neighborhood. It can lead to all kinds of shady activity. Also, parking would be a problem because there's not enough on site. People would be parking in the church lot and on the portion of Oak Ridge that borders the property, which only has a 2-hour limit from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Fort Avenue, which doesn't have enough parking for the people who live here, let alone this. So I hope that you will not let this go through. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.
Great, so we had those two, people speaking in opposition. So would you like to address those?
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, let me start with the first one. So the character of the neighborhood. We fell in love with this house, with the beautiful windows. We want to keep the historic nature of it. We're working on the landscaping to just make a beautiful garden. Like, we really want it to look like a home, not like a facility. That's our goal with that. And I think that was her main concern, Deborah Martin's, was the character.
Occupancy is encroaching. Yeah.
Okay. As for the voicemail, all of the client parking will be in the existing driveway. It's kind of grown over, but from our survey measuring, we can fit 5 to 7 clients at a time. That would be the absolute maximum. Right now, we do have 5 existing therapists. 1 only works Saturdays. We have 2 who are only part-time. So they come and they go in shifts. A massage therapist can only work 20 massages a week or their arms get tired. They're not there full-time 40 hours a week. So we don't anticipate having the full 5 therapist cars there at all times. And when we do have staff there, I think the plan is to utilize the parking on Oak Ridge only.
Yeah. And to further address that, we are by appointment only because we are a business here. We are by appointment only. This is not a walk-in. People are walking down the street, oh, let me go get a massage. No, we're not like that, so the cars would come and go from the driveway. So they wouldn't have to park in the church parking lot.
No.
They wouldn't have to park on the street. Also, in our waiver, we stipulate that this is therapeutic massage and non-sexual in nature.
By law, we
By
have to
law.
do that.
We take everybody's health information when they come in the door. So everything is medical oriented. It is not what they call foo-foo massage. We are doing physical therapy type things with different physical issues for people. So I think that's just important to note.
One more comment that we have is that we are the highest rated massage therapy practice in Lynchburg as of right now. We got our 100th 5-star review on Google. So those who have visited us do respect us. We're making a very good name.
And very
in
big
Lynchburg.
difference, actually, in the community.
Great. Well, I think you addressed the comments, and I think at this point would close the public hearing and address any other questions that commissioners might have.
Where do you guys currently operate?
We are on Commerce Street in Tom Gertie's building, 1022. So it's across from Dog Duke's next to Mrs. Joy's Bakery. It is a 2-room office with enough space for reception, so we can only take 3 clients at a time.
So how many clients will you be able to handle at any one time at the new location?
4, with the exclusion of couples. So when a couple massage comes in, we have 2 tables per room. I think we will have 2 rooms that have that availability, so the maximum
Would be six.
would be 6.
Right.
When I went by and looked at and I knew where this was, I just hadn't really eyeballed that lot in a long time it's because I didn't, it looked like to me, from the plans, it was gonna be an improvement to the existing nature of the lot and the building. And, you know, that area is a little bit, you know, could a little bit sprucing up. So, I mean,
We're
it looked
definitely
like to
making
me
it
this
look,
was gonna improve, and I understand what the concerns of the 2 people are, you know, and we've talked about this creeping commercialism into a sort of a residential area, but especially the way in which it looks like they're gonna improve the appearance of the building. It looks like to me, it's not gonna really look like a commercial building. It looks
Right.
like to me, it's gonna look
just like a
better.
house.
right.
I've got a couple of questions. One about the parking. If there's a 2-hour parking limit on that side street.
Right now, yes.
Pardon?
It is now, yeah, right.
It is now a 2-hour limit. Will that be enough time? I mean, will your employees have to run out and move their cars around every couple hours?
Yes, we would have to do that if that were the case.
And how many cars can park there right now? About 3?
If we expand, a lot of that has grown over the pavement there.
Well, I mean on the street. 3
Oh,
on
on
the
the
street?
We shouldn't have to have much parking at all here because we have, it doesn't really show the size here, but that's enough to park probably 8, 9 cars at one.
Okay.
It's like 6 along probably 6 along the back here, 2 out here, and then we were talking about if we had to expand, we just open this guy up a little bit.
And by having to expand, we understand that that would involve a whole different process with a permit and everything for that. So at the moment, I don't know if this helps either. We both live about a mile away from the office building, and we can carpool as well, fully abiding by the city laws on that 2-hour parking limit.
My other question is signage. You have 3 street frontages, so theoretically, you could have 3 signs, I would think. What are your plans for signage?
I'm thinking just the 2.
I'm thinking a very minimal one on Fort Avenue at the face of the building, but the larger one to be in the back on Long Memorial Avenue. All of our information, you know, that we have, cards and pamphlets, will have our name and address, you know, on it. So we don't have to have a major, large sign. Harry asked me one day, should we go digital? And I said,
No. There's a digital sign on the church parking lot. I don't know what size that is.
Yeah.
But even that's too much for what we want for the business.
And Mr. Sowers, would you mind putting your name down there also for reference, since you're pointing out this information? Yeah, I looked at the neighborhood, you know, if you look, for example, down Memorial, the bookstore is further down the road. I mean, it's surrounded pretty heavily by neighborhood commercial type structures, and the house is in really bad disrepair right now, so it'd be nice to see some positive. I'd like to see, personally, I think it's good to see more neighborhood business.
Another good
into the
example on
community.
Ford Avenue is Trillium House. They have a very, respectable front. It is a house, and they have a very minimal signage as well. It's very pretty.
Yeah, this is it's a neat area. Is it Fort Early, right up the road where we've actually met at a retreat?
Yeah.
And I appreciate what Cham said about, and the concerns about encroaching on residential. It is important to remember it's R4. If it was anything less than that, I think we would be looking at this differently. And I also, if it was not this particular property, if it was one or two properties removed, I would also be looking at it very differently.
Yeah.
But the fact that it does abut against the businesses to the south, and it is a residential type building, it does make for a good transition, which is one of the things we try and achieve as you move through different types of land uses. So, and again, I'm not trying to dismiss the concerns by the two members of the public. I think one thing I hope that they will realize, where we've seen this in the past, if their concerns continue, I think the good businesses are good neighbors, and you all work together with those folks to address any issues.
Absolutely.
And I think that can be done to take care of it.
If I can make a comment, I'll probably be doing most of the building part of it. My part-time job is director of Interfaith Outreach Rebuilds. Okay, so I've worked on about 700 properties here in the city and around. Okay, so I have a lot of experience with this type of thing. And as Megan said, we really bowled over by the fact this place was built. I looked at it in 1914, and I've gotten to see a lot of it. And a few folks that had the opportunity, let's say 6 months ago, to drive by, it was really, really in bad shape. I didn't realize until we got into it that it sat for a year, and it's really got some dyslexic construction in it, because it was a boarding house, it was a
bed and breakfast.
bed and breakfast. It's pretty strange there. But I had a conversation with Mike McKinney. Most of you folks might know Mike at Inspection. Okay, he and I are friends, and talked here the other day, and I said, what I'd like to do is keep this. We like to keep this old stuff, and I was teasing him about this. Still has even some old knob and tube. You remember when we used to have, some will remember this, when we had the push buttons?
For the light switches.
And all that, and I was teasing Mike. I said, Mike, can I keep some of that stuff, at least if it's working and everything like that. So my point is, I'd like to just keep a lot of that. Most of the things that we had, we've cleaned up the outside there cosmetically quite a bit, if you've seen that.
Yes.
And even inside, we're gonna maintain, I'm gonna say 90% plus of the character. Some things have to be changed, but otherwise, I think just like the fact that it's got big, high, 12-foot ceilings, and
Yeah, it took me-
it's a great place, a lot of character.
Took me 40 hours to strip down what do you call that, built-in
Oh, with all the
cabinetry.
paint layers they have.
So, yeah.
So,
We're trying to
Ra-
keep it natural.
Rachel, I have one question. Going back to the signage, what kind of signage in this B1C, what kind of signage could a resident expect there along Ford Avenue?
So I'll be honest, the sign permits are all handled through our zoning administrator, and they tend to be complicated because they are based on the amount of frontage you have, and that sort of thing. So right off the bat, we can dig into the zoning ordinance if we want, but I am not sure about the number of signs or size of the signage
I am waiting on a
offhand.
call back from the.
Okay.
Yeah, so to me, that would be the only struggle with me would be, what if there is an LED sign? You know, what would that look like? And I know the city has done a lot to reduce sign size and the impact on the community. And to me, that would be the only negative impact I could see from this, would be the potential of some kind of sign.
And I think we're on the same wavelength there, because as Terry pointed out here, you know, I mean, we're in 2022 here. You know, everything comes across the internet now.
Mhm.
All their bookings and everything like that, or people can book their own massages and everything via internet and computers. That's the name of the game. Do you really even need signs hardly anymore?
Right.
That's where I was gonna go to.
Yeah.
It's gonna,
Yeah.
particularly in an appointment-driven business.
A
Yeah.
plaque on the actual
The only thing,
building.
the only possible thing, and I really hadn't thought about this until you were talking this hours, and that is, you're in a perfect area. I know you don't want to attract walk-ins, but by the same token, that's, you know, that's a target-rich environment. I mean,
Yeah.
if you know, from that standpoint, so, you know, that would be the only thing that would, because I'm 100% where you are, Mr. Sowers, I can't imagine. But in a world where you aren't as well-known, and some of the comments would suggest that there is confusion, I think, then that kind of signage might be important. And I think trying to manage that so that you maintain the neighborhood character of the area, which quite frankly, y'all have said on a number of occasions in a number of ways, is the appeal of this property. You know, that would be a concern for us, and it sounds like it's something that you guys are trying to gin through on your own as well.
Just for perspective, I don't know if it's because we're a small business, because we're family-owned. The voicemail, the woman who left the voicemail and her concerns, we have those same concerns with clients that come in, overstepping boundaries and being inappropriate. So when it comes to not wanting walk-ins, we're just as wary of certain people. We do love, one of the first things that she mentioned when we found the property is that there's a bus stop across the street, and that would be wonderful for those who don't have transportation. So yes, they absolutely play their role in identifying us and helping those coming in from the neighborhood, but we don't necessarily want people kind of swarming.
You opened the ball, so I'm gonna go ahead. We're not supposed to do this, but I checked out your business, and I was just bowled over by the approach that you guys had.
Thank you
And
so much.
I don't know how you incorporate this, but for people that have that kind of heart, to want this kind of property, to me, it's a positive thing.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate that.
you know, I was looking at it going, I gotta schedule some time. What hurts?
Absolutely.
So, but I think that, I don't want to make light of it, because I think that's important. And I think if that same spirit comes to this property, I think all of the concerns are going to turn to people calling in and going, we made a mistake. This is a good thing.
We're
Thank
very
you.
professional. You'll read that in our, what are those?
Bios.
Yeah, we're very professional, and, yeah, we want to cater to the needs of people. We're not here to, it's not a money-making business. I'm here to help people with their problems.
Yeah.
You know, that's my main goal.
Never above needed. You'll get equal time later on.
Waiting for the paycheck. It's all right.
She's waiting for it.
So, one question I have, Rachel, it sounds like we're all pretty happy with the current situation. So what happens if they're incredibly successful and move again? What is this door opening up to as a B1C? Can someone else demolish this building? Can they, what other businesses can they put in here? You know,
No.
10, 20 years from now?
So the petitioner's submitted proffer states that the existing building shall remain and that the property shall be developed in substantial compliance with the concept plan. So if someone wanted to demolish it, I'm not sure where that would leave us.
They'd have to come-
But
they'd have to
they
come
would,
back.
I mean, if they wanted to do anything else to the footprint, really, you
That's
know,
good.
aside from a tiny, small
Yep.
addition, something like that, no, we're not going to allow it to be demolished so that another building can be built. That would require planning commission and city council public hearings again. If another business could go into the existing building, and it would meet their needs, and the parking would be suitable for them as well, they could certainly do that.
And is that the plethora of businesses that's under the B?
B1 would be, like limited retail, some office uses, that sort of thing. So, yeah, there is a possibility other businesses could go in if this one were to move on to a different location. I don't think it's too limiting. I think this proffer ensures that, it's not so restrictive that nothing else could be here, but it's not so loose that the neighborhood has to worry about what it might look like. This gives the neighborhood sort of assurance that it's going to continue to aesthetically look like something that has been there for a long time.
But it's also, you're also looking at B3 right across the street. And R4, all around it. So back to your point, Dave, is it right? I appreciate, because that was my question too. How is this limiting going forward? And really, sounds like in summary, it's limited as to the proffers. It's limited as to the size, to your point about you got to come up with another business that could handle the parking. And working through this. So I'm, again, the only thing I have is the signage.
And I appreciate that too, that it's right, you've got institutional across the street and you've got business next door, but it's just, and I'm not necessarily against it, but I just want to point out, it's like Old Grays Mill Road, you change the zoning on one lot, and then all of a sudden, the next lot is like, well, why, you're comparing it, you've got your business, all of a sudden this one's changed, so why can't the one next door change, and then the one next door? And I mean, it's just, it's the progression, and that, that's, I was a little wary about it when I came in here because of that, and just because of what we've seen happen on Old Grays Mill and Timberlake and some of these other corridors that over the years, have changed from a residential to a business corridor. And I'm not suggesting that that's necessarily going to happen here, but it is, it's kind of the first step of what does happen. But I like your plan. I like the building. I like what you're going to do with the building, and I agree with everything you guys have said. I just would bring up that point.
That stretch, that stretch from Westover Jewelers and that area on, just like you're saying, Kinsey, from there on Memorial Avenue up to this lot, they are houses, but, they continuous, it looked like to me, they've been on a downward spiral for a long time. I don't know how many of them are owner occupied. You get over on Ford Avenue and there are houses immediately down next to this, and then there's some businesses like Trillium House and Paul Johnson's Insurance Agency and Catherine's Flowers. Yeah, it's a dicey situation out there, but that was, because I really hadn't gone by to eyeball what you all had done, and as you said, Mr. Stowers, you've already done some cosmetic things on the outside, and I thought, things are gonna look a little bit better here. And I know we're all very conscious of this creeping commercialization, and it'll be on planning commissions and other city councils that have to deal with some of these continuing issues over the years. But I just see an opportunity to sort of see an improvement in that particular location from an aesthetic viewpoint. That's not going to be, it's not going to be like a vape shop in there or something like that. So that would really give me a lot of concern if it was a less professional type of appearance that still seems to be in keeping with almost like a residential building.
Well, I voted against Old Grays Mill, and one distinction, if I recall correctly, they were tearing down that building and putting in duplexes.
Yeah.
And here we're not.
And then we're not,
And if this involved any sort of change to the structure, I think I would be consistently voting against it again. So I completely respect what you're saying, and normally I'm the one who is voting against.
I
But
heard your comments, and
And
Like, it makes a lot of sense, and I respect
But I think
what you
that is
say
a
lot.
distinction that, on some of those, we're seeing the existing structures being replaced with something else, which really changes the character. Whereas here, they're embedding it within the existing, and they're proffering that that won't change in the future.
Right.
I do have a quick question. With the proffer and the conditions that we're offering with this rezoning, does that stick on the actual city rezoned plot area so that, you know, the snowball effect that you mentioned, the neighboring would have to maybe have that same proffer? Like, they can't say, oh, it's business now. Well, it's business that preserved the integrity of that house. Would that stick with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and along with that, as far as our outside landscaping, we intend to keep that as a, you know, as we would our own house. You know, it's not going to be outlandish.
We're not going to pave the whole thing, which would take
Yeah.
permits, obviously, but.
Yeah, we want that to maintain that cozy, that homey look, because we're family. And when people come in and get a massage, they're family. So, like I said, we cater to veterans and seniors and, you know, folks that have issues, that have problems that need to be helped, so.
It sounds like we've all seemed very supportive. Does anybody have any other questions or?
Rachel, did you have a sign?
Yes,
comment?
so from what I'm looking at, and you can see all the stipulations here, you can have a building mounted or a freestanding sign, I believe, on each street frontage. Can be up to 24 square feet, which would be like, I guess, 6 by 4.
6 by 4.
Yeah. And it can't be any taller than 10 feet. You know, we're encouraging like monument-style signs with this sort of,
And no light
Ordinance.
restrictions?
you're asking if you could
Like
have like a LED. Those, so you go
Right
down.
there.
Yeah, when sign is eliminated in these districts, such lights shall be enclosed in the sign, shaded or indirect, so that the source of illumination is not visible. So I'm thinking in B1, I don't believe the LED is allowed. I think you can do that in B3 or B5, but it specifically says that the source of illumination is not visible, and to me, again, the zoning ordinance, the zoning administrator usually handles these inquiries, but I don't believe LED would qualify because you're actually seeing the little lights.
I feel like
you
we
see it.
heard about this with the church on Old Forest Road on the corner, and they were going to put in a sign, and we talked about the restrictions that went around
They-
that, so.
Yeah, they, I believe that was right after we changed the zoning ordinance,
Mhm.
About the
because
same time.
that old ordinance allowed for a CUP for a modified sign permit, and so at that time, they had submitted prior to the ordinance changing, so that was the last one.
Well, I think my question about the sign, actually, you know, having a business myself, I've even seen people have business who have taken phone numbers off of their vehicles and only used a website. So I do think that there's less of a, you know, need to use that kind of media anyway. So I feel like that's, with its appointment base, that to me answers a lot of the questions.
If I could make one more comment, just, I said this place was 1914 when it was built, and when I first went in here in August, he's on his last legs, okay? If nobody picks it up, and he sat on there for a year and a half, nobody bought it from the previous people. They gave up on it, you know, they didn't spend any money on trying to fix it up, paint it or anything like that. We have some of the original pictures, and you'll see that he was really last legs. So,
Yeah.
I'm only saying this is a good opportunity I think we're all on the same page. We like Lynchburg. I know you like Lynchburg. Let's take and be an asset, you know, rather than liability. The property certainly can be an asset. I'm working on like getting a heat pump and all on it now. It has a gas furnace in it now that's 31 years old. Okay, that thing barely runs, okay, but it's running. Okay, so we're changing it over to something more modern, but you know, we appreciate the opportunity to save it, to do something with it positive, and just looking forward to be a further asset, period.
Great, thanks.
If there's no further discussion, I would make a motion that we accept the proposal as stated.
And I'll second it.
Okay, so we'll go on ahead. Any other comments before we take this to a vote? Okay, let's go on ahead and put this to a vote. All in favor of this petition, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it carries. It's great. Good luck. You all are going to be taking this to the city council. So if there's folks who are in opposition, they can actually come and voice their opinion there, and look forward to seeing that area improve. I know that we have a current congressman who might like to see that looking good, because there is a current congressman who used to live in that house when I was in school, so I'm not going to tell you who. You'll have to figure that one out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, exactly. We went to school together. Okay. So is there any other business that we need to attend to?
Can I ask a question, just because I don't know how this works? Based on the conversation that we just had, all right, let's use this as an example. What Kenzie said was, okay, makes sense to have this kind of situation here, but we don't want to have any further creep down into the residential sections. How is that noted? I mean, what I go back to is, if you remember the conversation that we had when, was it First National was trying to build the bank across? And the guy came in and said, I was on the city council,
He was
30
on the
years
planning
ago.
commission, Maynard-
Yeah, planning committee.
Maynard Jones.
And he said, we decided that this is where, that the Walgreens is where it stops, and then it won't start up again until we go to that shopping area out on Boonesboro. There was something written, there was some kind of an agreement, understood or something. Is that something that we need to capture in some way, so that now 20 years from now, when somebody's sitting in this position, they go, well, the idea was to sort of hold that growth here and then let the rest of it be residential. I don't know if that's clear or not, but how is that reflected in the record? How do we
Well,
capture
procedurally,
that
I
thinking?
think if we wanted to, we could pass a motion, pass a resolution, and ask that it be made part of the minutes. But, institutional memories disappear. And, I know when we get, when you do your due diligence, Rachel, there's a history of, what's going on in an area. And I guess if there was a motion, duly detailed, it would be picked up as part of your record review. But, we can't bond a planning commission 10 years from now, or 20 years from now.
Yeah, because
Well, I would, if I could reply to what you said, I don't think we can, I mean, we can say what we want,
Yeah.
but we don't know what's coming down the road. We don't know if 20 years from now, that area, I mean, for one thing, if, next year, somebody came in the house next door and said, I want to do the same thing, or I want to have my own little cottage industry, I'm only going to have 3 clients a day, the parking's no problem, they won't even know I'm there. I'm a graphic designer, say, and I want to work in my house because I don't want to go out to work anymore. And so, that kind of cottage industry might just grow up along there. And it may be that that's going to become a cottage industry corridor and not so much a single-family residential corridor. And we don't know. And certainly 20 years from now, we don't know what it's going to be. So we can say that all day long, but I don't think any planning commission 20 years from now is going to want to be bound by something we thought up
I don't
today.
think there's anything we can do to bind it at all. I mean, if I said that, I apologize, because I don't think that wasn't my intent. And
Yeah.
I don't think, to your point, I think that'd be a waste of time. But I would like to have a way, if it's appropriate, it may not be appropriate in this case, but I would like to figure out what the way is to capture that thinking.
well, I think we
Here's what we're
can.
thinking about, here's why, neighborhoods are important, here's how we want to manage it. This is why we made an exception in this case, or, so that there's some transfer of knowledge.
The other break to it is, I mean, how it would not happen would be that the neighbors would get up in arms. I mean, we had 2 people this time. I don't know, maybe city council's going to have 30 people come and say, I'm opposed to it. We don't know what they're going to
Well,
have.
it's
But-
funny, Nat Marshall owns the property beside it. So, I mean, this is someone who knows about the public input. And I think if we want to know that stuff, we can ask for the minutes for when something's been heard. We do have some memory. You talked about Old Grace Mill Road. I remember voting against the bank, you know. So I do think that we do consider this, but, you know, as you were saying, Nancy, we are going to see changes.
Yeah.
You know, I do think we're going to see more of these community-type things, and there's a big R4 development 4 houses down, right? There's a big apartment complex. So there are these natural stops.
And the other thing is, there are gonna be, I said cottage industry, but there's gonna be multi-use. I mean, like in my neighborhood on Church Street, it was 1977, so I don't know how many years ago that was. I can't count that far, but 40-some years ago, my company bought a house, 1324 Church Street, right across from where Washington Street comes in. And it was a single-family residence. I don't know that we got it rezoned. I don't even know if we had rezoned back then. I don't know. But maybe we got it rezoned. And we had our business there. I now live in the house next door. My company also owned at one point, and I live there and work there. So I have a home and an office. And the ones next door to me are about to get sold, I think. The row houses across from the Y. And I think they're probably going to get fixed up as condos or residential rentals, but I don't know. Right now, the YMCA uses one as an office. So that whole strip, which used to be residential, that whole Church Street area used to be residential, and now it's not. So
Well, and back to the point that I made earlier, that section on Memorial Avenue from Westover up to, up to this lot, I mean, there's the bookstore there. That's, not looking real good. The church, of course, has put up an LED flashing sign, which is a little bit disconcerting. But, the rest of those houses on Memorial Avenue in that stretch look to me to be on a downward spiral. So, what's going to happen in there? I mean, is it going to be the same situation that the Stowers talked about, which is, the houses are not particularly desirable for whatever reason as single-family residences anymore. So what's going to happen to all that property? I don't know. I mean, I hate to see it continue to go downhill and not be utilized. But like you said, Nancy, some cottage industry could come in here next week for a couple of those houses. And what do we do? I mean, are we going to say, no, we're not going to change it?
There's adequate parking and
Yeah.
and the neighbors aren't complaining, and I don't know. It would be a hard call if it keeps on going. Were we to say that business shouldn't creep down there because maybe that's what the city needs, the neighborhood needs?
Well, my point was only to say, because we've had a number of these conversations where something's come up and we've gone, nothing wrong with this use, but looking down the road, we got some concerns about where this might lead. It might be conservation areas, it might be, I mean, I can think of a handful of stuff. And I'm just trying to figure out, to some extent, we get the historical look, so you can look and say, well, this, they approved this. This looks like the same kind of thing, wonder what the thinking was. But I'm just looking for some way for us to capture, this is kind of what we were thinking about at the time.
Well, I think.
Just from the
we're doing it-
Passover, so you have to learn it over for yourself.
I think we're doing it right here. This is all going to show up in the minutes. And like we've talked about, whether it's official or not, there's institutional memory, and every petition will have the same discussion. And I think we can objectively review those, and at some point, if we need to draw the line, we would.
I think you hit hit it right on the nose, Dave. I think, we've all made some valid points, like areas do evolve. I mean, that's just the natural progression of things. So to say we need to memorialize it, I definitely see where you're coming from on that. And like Dave said, I think this is the way you do it. You make sure it's, you make your points in the minutes, and then you look objectively and critically at every petition that comes before you, to make sure that creep isn't happening. It made sense in this case. In the next one, it might not, and that's okay. And we don't have a great way to map it to say we're drawing the line here. We talk big picture on this kind of thing in our comprehensive plan. That's one place where we can talk about, the need for change or preserving of some areas. This area is designated as one of our revitalization areas, like it says in the report, and that means it kind of needs special attention. And I have to admit, Tom and I talked a lot about, well, not a lot, but we talked about this one. A lot of times they come before us, these petitions, and it's pretty straightforward. We know whether we're going to recommend approval or denial right away. But the comp plan language in this report, as well as, the bigger section in the comprehensive plan, I think adds a lot of context in this case. I know it certainly swayed me a certain way, reading the report and deciding whether it was, appropriate or inappropriate to recommend approval or denial. But yeah, I think these discussions are important, and carrying them through as we look at each petition, and when we do bigger projects like neighborhood plans and the comprehensive plan. I think this is all very valuable.
Bob, and I'm sure you know this, but, on the parcel viewer, if you actually go and look at a property and scroll down under planning and development, you can see all kinds of petitions, permits, inspections, cases, and this particular property has many on there. I don't know if y'all saw all that, but variances that were denied and right-of-ways that are under review and that kind of stuff. So I guess in that sense, hopefully somehow, this rezoning, the link will get put in there and 20 years down the road, if something else comes up on this property, somebody would be able to see it and kind of look at the discussions.
I have looked at those, but I haven't, so much of what, personally speaking, now that I've learned over the course of the discussions has changed. That now, your awareness about things like that changes. So my point was more about if we can take some of that and transfer it forward, then you haven't got to wait 3 years for somebody to figure out you can do that. That was my only point. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, because I will look at that. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Are we having a meeting in 2 weeks?
I don't believe we are. Yeah, we don't have items for that one.
No meeting on 26th?
No meeting.
No opposition to leaving, so we're done.